Andre.
Yeah. I almost called you Eddie. I got Eddie Yarbrough in my head. What was that? What was that? Yahir, my man. I was ready to just talk through a dominant first half, a sleepy second half. Easy peasy, man. Like, just jump on with my guy, do this post game real quick, and get out of here. Lickety split. Enjoy our first road win of the season. Ugh.
Watching it, that whole sequence from the beginning, man, was just really bad. You were seeing them how they were playing. They were getting attacked constantly in that second half. That back line was not communicating at all. It was tough to. That second half as a Rapids fan was really tough to watch. Like, it really was. They parked the bus and they said, let's see how many people could actually attack us. Let's see how many times they might be able to score.
Well, and I mean, in fairness, like the way Houston plays in the first half, they play a decent 10 minutes. And then, I mean, as soon as the Rapids were in possession, Houston sat everyone back. So, and then it got back to Cross City, USA. You could tell that Estevez was missing because it was way more crosses from the right side than we've seen all season. And actually, Keegan got some dimes in. I mean, J-Lu has a phenomenal chance there, one-on-one against the keeper. Good save by Clark. And then he has the cross that leads to the corner, right? It's a one-time cross in, gets knocked out. That's the corner kick. And Jack Price with a beauty. Mac gets the goal. I mean, I really thought it was a really nice first half. They had a good shape. Mac feels like he's coming into his own as this box-to-box mid in this two-man center mid with Jack Price. That partnership's working well. I don't know, man. I mean, what are your thoughts on all this?
That first half, I was having a lot of fun all the way around. You were seeing that the Rapids were attacking. They had a lot of purpose when their attacks. Just talking about the defense. If you're following the Rapids account, I was tweeting from there. I was really impressed by that defense in the first half. Lawless kept heading everything out, cleared everything in his way. I thought Danny Wilson, after missing that game with the hamstring, he looked really solid. And I think he looked really solid in the second half.
Yes.
I think that first half was just like what Rapids soccer is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Attacking on the wings, trying to cut in as much as you can, and then just taking advantage of your set pieces. I think they did a great job on their set pieces. I think every time Jack Price was ready to do a free kick, was ready to have a corner, I thought it was like super dangerous. The Houston was on their heels after every set piece. And it's not to say that Houston didn't, like, they shared most of the possession in the first half. They actually kind of was like 50-50. So it wasn't like utter dominant. But when you saw the chances happening, you saw that the Rapids had the better chances. You saw that they were the team leading the tempo left and right.
Exactly. They were building play from the back. Houston was kind of sitting back, letting them do that. When Houston was in possession, the Rapids were pressing more. It felt like a more controlled game plan of the first 20 minutes against LAFC. Their shape was really clear. They're playing well from the back in possession. And when they're not in possession, they're pressing hard. Mac and Jack Price were working really well in the middle, and then they're just getting the ball out wide, so Barrios, J-Lu, those guys are the outlets. The wide backs are pushing up nicely and giving that support. And I mean, as usual, probably didn't create as many quality chances as you should have, because you're right, possession was about 50-50. It just felt like the entire first half was spent in the Rapids half of the field. You get that goal. There were a couple cutback crosses that just barely missed in that first half. One with Rosenberry, they just find no one. And then that other one right at the end of the first half. And you could see Mac was irate that they didn't capitalize more, because finally they caught Houston without numbers in the back, on the counter. They could have ended that game right there on the 47th minute before even going into the locker room.
Oh, for sure. They could have ended this game like 10 different times. Like they had the advantage most of the game. And when even at the beginning of the second half, you like the first 10 minutes, the Rapids were playing how they were playing in the first half. But as the second half like kind of wore on, you saw Houston started building little by little. You saw Houston take advantage and get confidence, which with a team like Houston, who is barely finding their identity, they got a lot of new players in. That's the one thing you can't do with them. You can't let them feel like they're back in the game because they're just going to take advantage of that. And as the second half wore on, their confidence grew. You saw Darwin Quintero like towards the 70th minute, take like 4 Rapids defenders by himself until Danny Wilson was able to like clear it. And even that, it was like a pretty iffy clearance if you saw it.
Yeah, no, they started to really play back. They started to really gift them open lanes out wide. And Houston, like right before that goal, Houston screws up a fast break where, like, if that touch isn't so heavy, you have a one-on-one with the goalie, right? And I think what happened is the substitutions that were made in the second half took the Rapids' shape away, and it kind of took the outlets for Mac and Jack Price away. And then Mac was out of the game, and I thought that really hurt them as well. With Shidashiki in, it becomes more of a 2-man attack. You sub Brian Costa in, you take Barrios out, so you didn't have those wide outlets so much. You didn't Costa just hasn't found his role yet, man. That's a big issue right now.
So like the biggest thing with that, if you take Barrios out, you take Jonathan Lewis out, your whole counterattack falls apart. Now you have Shidashiki, who is not a speed demon like Jonathan Lewis and Barrios, that if you throw it out there, they'll run down the wing and they're gonna have a cross, or they can cut back in like Barrios is known to do, or even Jonathan Lewis. Like these guys are what your counter and your offense was, and once you took them out, you had to play possession, and you didn't have the right midfielders or even the right strategy to play possession and try to keep Houston out of your half, that whole second half, basically.
Yeah,
which I do. Yeah. I do agree. The one sub I loved, and it wasn't even the Max Alvis one, was the Colin Warner one. Because the game was starting to get very chippy. They were starting to throw elbows. Everybody, and Colin Warner is perfect CONCACAF guy. The guy is going to be going around trying to knock everybody down. He's going to fight for possession, and I thought that was the one sub that I would have made a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I'm with you. And actually, I mean, I thought Shidashiki played very well. His touch was much better on the ball than Rubio's. He had some really nice passes. He has that pass to Trusty, which again could have ended the game, ends up being offsides, right? And I love that you talked about the back three. I thought the back three did really well the first 60 minutes. They were pushing up when they needed to, so it wasn't just in the defensive phase. But yeah, I kind of think they lost their shape. You're exactly right. They lost their speed and ability to counter and take guys on one-on-one and start to take advantage of having a bit more numbers. And on top of that, I think they just got tired. I mean, they got tired and they got comfortable defending the lead, because while Houston was finding the ball more, how many truly dangerous opportunities did they even have, man?
Well, I was tweeting back and forth somebody like Houston felt toothless. They were getting there. They were creating the chances, and every time they shot, it was out left or right at Yarbrough. It took a huge Yarbrough mistake that he cleared it straight to a Houston player, and then he ran out outside his box where he couldn't even put a hand on it, because if he did, it was going to be a red card, and he got scored on. I mean, I don't blame Yarbrough 100%, but he is about 90% of the reason they lost.
They tied, yes.
Well, tied, not lost.
Yeah. But it feels like a loss because really you blew a win. Yeah. You literally gifted a win.
That last-minute goal really did deflate me a lot, because it deflated me, because I really thought the Rapids were going to walk out of Houston with 8 points. Real Salt Lake is tied up too right now. Yep. So the Rapids would have been looking pretty in first place if they would have. They would have been right up there either in first or second place if they would have walked out with 3 points.
You're not going to like this. Real Salt Lake now up 2-1. So, a horrible evening just got worse. Yeah, that's devastating. I know that was the one saving grace coming into this, was like, okay, Real Salt Lake's tied up at least. Oh, God.
That's super pain. That just sucks, especially with them. That's their next opponent in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, with everything that we've broken down, everything from the substitutions, them losing their shape, be more sloppy in possession, not pressing as much, just kind of gifting Houston the possession and just trying to like run out the clock. Even the goal should never happen, but the few opportunities Houston had prior to that were again in them having sloppy turnovers and trying to build from the back instead of just like sweeping it and like dumping it to Dallas, just like getting sloppy, and then it finally catches up to them with just an errant pass over the middle. And yeah, I think Lalas is coming out. I think Lalas can contest that if Yarbrough just like backs up and stays in his goal and contests that a little more. Instead, it becomes a super, super easy goal for them. And I mean, more devastating, Brian Acosta has the ball to win it on his left foot at the 93rd minute and just misses wide.
That was the one where he scores that could change the whole season for Brian Acosta starting here to then.
Yes.
If he scores that, it's a game winner.
Yeah.
Right at the death. Frazier's gonna be like, oh, this guy's ready to play. That was like 10 minutes into like he's been playing for 10 minutes at most. Frazier would have gained him all the confidence in the world because Frazier likes seeing his players develop, likes them fitting into the system, especially when they have big moments. Frazier's the coach that is gonna reward them right away. So when he missed that, it was not just for the law. It's not just bad for the team that tied, but it's also bad for him and like just gaining more and more confidence as the year goes on. That could have gone a long way for his playing time.
It's a phenomenal point. Yeah, just his confidence, the confidence his teammates have in him. Because to me, he's clearly been the guy who's had the hardest time. I mean, I don't know what his position is. Sometimes he's out wide. Sometimes he looks like one of the center mids. He just hasn't found the spot. I honestly thought Max had his worst game too. Just didn't look confident. Wasn't able to have a ton of impact. Obviously, he's put in a tough spot coming in to protect the lead and then all of a sudden having to switch his brain and trying to create something out of nothing there.
And I don't believe Max is a protect the lead kind of player like Colin Warner is.
No.
Like even Jack Price is a protect the lead player. Diego Rubio is a protect the lead player. Max is like try to out there and go score. He's going to yoga bonito. He's going to try to get his.
Yes,
he's going to try to create plays. So putting him out there when you're protecting the lead was a really weird sub for me. Like what is that going to do for – what kind of dynamic was he looking for? I think he was just trying to sub out Rubio because he was tired, and he didn't want to put Yappian into that position. He wanted to give Max some run, and honestly, like I said, Rubio was just tired. He wanted somebody that could hold on to the ball in the final third of the Dynamo's field, and he just wasn't. None of them were able to do that anymore.
Honestly, the bench is kind of short right now. Like as far as like attackers go. So in the final third, if you're just looking for fresh legs, Max is kind of one of your only options because
one of the only attacker players that you have that's not a 17-year-old.
Exactly. And I mean, they're kind of missing more guys out wide. Like I've been disappointed in Barrios. I don't think Barrios is doing enough to like take guys on and, create numerical advantages and, make deadly passes and deadly shots on goal here to really make a difference in the final third. I thought Rubio probably has his worst MLS game of the season thus far. Easily, right? And J-Lu, I thought, played really well. But, he can only go so long. He's probably just a 60-minute player right now. And, he is the guy he can give you a little more goal-scoring dynamics from out wide because he can cut inside and stuff. But the left side was completely different from what it's been all season without Estevez there,
Well, that's the thing.
They didn't have that wide lane. They were just cutting inside with J-Lu.
So last week when they played Sporting Kansas City, Jonathan Lewis was completely out of it. You didn't hear his name. You didn't know where he was. Yeah. He never touched the ball. But Estevez did play that game. Now that Estevez was out, Jonathan Lewis was a big contributor to this game.
Yeah.
He was attacking. So now my theory is, what if we switch Estevez with Barrios? They have okay like I'm not sure which foot they prefer. I'm guessing that they prefer the left and the right, so they can cut in and shoot, which is what they usually do. But now I'm starting to think maybe if you switch Barrios with Jonathan Lewis, you can get more out of Jonathan Lewis on the right side. So because he's not overlapping with Estevez as much. And I think Barrios is better playing inside and cutting in than Jonathan Lewis is. So now I'm starting to think maybe that might be something when Estevez comes back, that if you switch him wings, it might work better out for that offensive.
Yeah.
On the offensive side of it. Great
point. Because Jonathan Lewis is playing like an inverted winger right now. Exactly. He's always cutting inside. I will say it does feel like they found something with this 2022 squad in the 3-4-3. The shape is just feeling better. I just want the front three to feel more like a front three instead of a, two out wide with a single striker, and that's where Barrios needs to be more part of it to me.
Well, like
Barrios needs to do more of what Lewis is doing.
And they show that single striker feels like a false nine, feels like a 10. It feels like a 10.
Sure
does. It doesn't feel like a striker. So it becomes frustrating when you don't got when they're crossing it and you see Rubio isn't even in the box. He's outside of the box, and it's just like you're like, please get somebody that can hit that in.
Well, and now even on the cutbacks, there was no one. It's like, well, what is going on? We don't have a striker. We're just cutting it back, and there's still no one.
He just had a bad game all the way around. It was a brutal game for Rubio.
Yeah. What who would you give the player of the game to?
Honestly, Lawless. I thought Lawless was amazing today.
He had best game of the season. He played really well.
Just like he was a stalwart back there. He didn't let anything get by. They would shoot it and he was a wall. So I'll give it to Lawless for today for sure.
I love that. Definitely cleaner than Trusty, who had, that crazy collision for the yellow card. Misses the goal. Well, was offsides anyways, and then had a few errant passes. I think that you can make a case for Danny Wilson and Mac as well.
Mac's heating up, man. Mac is gonna have a season. I can feel it.
He's found his role. He's now a box to box. He's not worrying about trying to be a number 10 or impact. He's box to box. He's a great pairing with Price. In possession, he was phenomenal. Like there was no getting the ball out of him. Super good at like coming in, getting the ball back. He's just running 24/7. He had one pass that was just gorgeous, like 30 feet to J. Lou on a rope. I actually thought he was even cleaner with his passing than Price was, who had a few turnovers that could have cost them. I thought Rosenberry played really well in the second half. It just kind of fell apart.
Rosenberry's he's a solid. He's always going to be solid. He'll give you a few mistakes here and there, but for the most part, he's reliable. You're not going to get anything different from him.
Yeah, and I mean both goalies probably worst players of the game, because let's face it, as much as we can lament Yarbrough, Clark completely whiffs on that corner. Credit to Danny Wilson for being there, standing strong and making that really hard, but he completely whiffs and lets Max score a goal that requires nice instincts, but just about you and I could have scored.
That was just the goalkeepers are bad. Everything they stopped was literally like right at their hands. They rarely were contested. They rarely had to make a nice stop or anything. So it wasn't like, oh my goodness, Clark completely outplayed Yarbrough or Willie completely outplayed Clark. It was just they were both bad. Like they just weren't contested. If the Rapids had 3 more shots on goal, I believe that was just maybe a little bit higher up. I just think the Rapids win 3-1. It was like that sort of like neither goalie was that good.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be dreaming about that Brian Acosta miss. That felt big, man. And I definitely feel like that missed break at the very end of the second half is probably the turning point. Like they probably can end it right then and there.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
It is what it is. I mean, it's the fourth game of the year. They're gonna be okay. They'll get their 100th road win eventually. It'll take time.
Exactly. The beauty of the MLS is this win won't come back to haunt them 5 months from now when they're in a title race. They still will have to earn the postseason and do it that way. So it sucks, but it's still a point on the road. I think this team is finding some things, finding their identity. But we do need to still figure out some things up front. No doubt about that.
For sure. And it'll come. I believe in this front office.
I do too.
I really do believe in Poirier and Frazier and what they're building. They'll build a team that Colorado deserves. That's for 100%.
Sure. No, I mean, they're already figuring some things out. So I feel good. And now it's time to put Nashville on to root against RSL.
I'm fading RSL all I can on DraftKings right now. I'm going to go bet against them.
There you go. There you go. That sounds like a fun night.
So, anything else, Dre?
No, yeah. That's going to do it for us. Stay tuned. Mitch, and the crew will have you all covered midweek. International break for the boys, but not for the boys of DNVR Rapids.
Let's go.
And yeah, man, always a pleasure doing this.
Had a lot of fun, Dre. Thanks for hopping on, man.
Always.
Peace out, guys.